Oh, what's going on, Bill? Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to be seen, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well. So this is kind of like episode two,
Yep.
I think, right? So we're going to kind of recap some of the stuff we talked about in episode one, talk about some of my stuff, and then we're going to get to the exciting stuff, the bets about what's going on.
Yeah.
So you want to give a quick breakdown of your goals and where we ended yesterday or the other day?
Yeah. I'm gonna give a quick TLDR too for anybody listening who
Okay.
didn't, you know, episode one, which is basically, uh, John's a sales guy. I'm a marketing guy, but we both want to know more about the opposite side. We both see the importance of the opposite side, and we've been having these discussions for 11 years now. Wow. So we were like, you know what? Let's get on someplace and show everybody how bad we are at the other stuff and how good we are at one stuff, so that
Exactly.
people can see that failing's okay and we're not complete idiots.
It's all about experiments, right? And so if we
Exactly.
can document the journey and share it with other people and they get value out of it, then that's a win because there's more than enough business for anybody out there who wants it, right? You just have to go get it.
That's right. That's right. So yesterday we talked real quickly. Actually, we talked for a little while about my goals being to make 15K a year off this training consulting model that I've got started up. And the idea was we were trying to figure out some KPIs to match back to that so that we could measure inputs, not just lagging indicators for 40X people out there. Stuff that's already happened. Stuff that people normally measure is what's already happened, but we were trying to find good things to measure for inputs to get my business to that 15K model by December 31st. So we ended on a list of things to do by June 21st, and we're going to be measuring those as we go. And so now it's time to talk to you, John, about
Yeah,
what you got going on.
let's get into that. So I've got the podcast, and I've got goals for that. I've got John Small Mountain, and I have different goals for that. And then I have Adapted Growth, which is my consultancy, helping people with sales process and CRMs and everything else like this. So I the way that I've been thinking about it in my head is using John Small Mountain as kind of like the entry point to like all my stuff, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
as I'm guesting on other shows and everything else like this, I think that my messaging gets a little bit muddled at the end whenever it's like time to speak to like what I'm working on and stuff, because I'm trying to send people to Sales Throwdown. I'm also trying to send them to John Small Mountain and everything else. So I think that what I'm going to do today, and this is actually on my to-do list, is to build like a landing page that just has everything on it, right? Like all of my stuff, all the social, everything else like this, and make that the primary like entry point. So if I'm on a show talking about Sales Throwdown, cool, go check out this page very specifically because that's going to give you access to like everything I'm working on, kind of deal. Um, so that's on the books for today. You know, we were talking yesterday that we both feel like email is, for lack of a better term, mind control, right? If you can get into that inbox, it's just a matter of time until you get some kind of pain, as long as they're in a relevant market for them to be buying from you eventually, right? So you don't have to deal with algorithms. You don't have to deal with any of these things that like we both have complained about and talked about and bitched about for years.
Right.
And it's just a better thing. So most of my goals are based around growing those three separate email lists, right? Because I have one for John Small Mountain. We do a weekly newsletter called the Sherpa newsletter. Adapted Growth is growing the email list. I got to figure out what kind of stance I want to do on that weekly email. And then we also have one for Sales Throwdown. So my big goals were to have 5,000 each on each one of those lists,
Okay.
which is that. So that was my pre-COVID 2020 goal.
Okay.
Uh, I'm not anywhere close to being on track for those numbers. So this will be curious to see how much I can grow that.
So the goal's the same then. The goal hasn't changed.
I think I probably need to like redo the goal, maybe, right?
Okay.
So, right, it's June. Do you think I should cut it in half? If the goal was to get 5,000 for like a full year, and we kind of had like a bad, not like a bad year, right? Because like we have still been able to record and put stuff out, but it just hasn't been as good as. It's not bad. It's just a lack of priorities on me, which is part of the reason why
Yeah.
we're here. So
Right, right. I wouldn't say it was any worse of a year for email necessarily, just because so many people are consuming information. It may even be a
yeah,
better year. Who knows? I haven't done the studies to look yet, but yeah, I would say either adjust the number down or since we have somebody to kind of like walk you through that now, which is kind of one of the purposes here is why did you pick 5,000? Was it just an arbitrary number, or is that?
So the 5,000 number came from the idea that, we're trying to monetize the podcast with ads and sponsorships and things like that. And
Okay.
so I was thinking that we could offer sponsorship of that weekly newsletter for that episode that we put out, right? So like if this episode is sponsored by Audible or whatever it is, then the email that we could also be sponsored. So then when I'm reaching out to people, say, okay, cool, we get this much on YouTube, we have this many downloads, but we also have an email list, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was just kind of my thinking, and 5,000 just kind of seemed like a good solid number that would be hard to hit, but have some validity to it.
Is the sponsorship on the podcast, is the monetization actually just for ads on the podcast versus the email, and then the email is like an additional income?
Email's like an additional added benefit, right? Okay. So goal is to get. Sorry, go ahead.
So it wouldn't actually directly tie into that goal to monetize the podcast with ads necessarily. That's kind of like a secondary income stream.
Well, yeah, because like I kind of think that I can make a pretty compelling case to a brand of like, hey, look, we get 200 downloads and 50 views on YouTube because that hasn't been the bigger platform for us so far. Okay. But we've also got a massive email list.
I get you. Okay, so it does tie in because it's a feature that you're offering as part of that package.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 5,000 is fine. I mean, I think for the podcast, that's a fair just starting number. I'd probably adjust to just double what you think you can currently get. So like if you have 250 right now, I would make it 500. I'd make it 1,000. Like, so you challenge yourself,
Yeah. I need some better lighting. I'll get that taken care of today. Yeah. So I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust those numbers down, right? Because there's not really any pure, real, clear incentive about the 5K, and honestly, it kind of makes me stressed out on top of everything else I'm trying to do. So I think I'm going to back those numbers down to 3K, or maybe even 2K. Yeah, 2K, because I had this other idea last night. Why not hire a VA to promo me? Was kind of the way that I was thinking about it, right? Because like I've got John Small Mountain stuff, which is entrepreneurship driven, and everything else and sales driven. We've got the Sales Throwdown podcast, which is purely sales driven. But like I can't be everywhere at all times, right? But if I get a VA and say, hey, cool, you're going to take 4 hours a day and you're going to go look for sales blogs, business blogs, and just look for any opportunity to talk, about these projects, right? And I have to figure out if they're going to do it as me or themselves and what that whole thing looks like. But placements are, being out there, trying to be everywhere, right, requires effort, right? Requires more than one set of hands is kind of the thought process. Mm-hmm. Have you done that with like a VA?
I've done pieces of that. I haven't done like a long sustained. I've done it for a campaign. Like I've had somebody go and like I've launched a resource or something, and I've had them go out and try and find all these different blogs. So, and I also had them find me podcast guest episode.
So I have a guy who's doing that for me, right? And he's pretty awesome, right? So he'll message me and he'll say, hey, is this a good fit? Is this a good fit? And I pay him per appearance he books me, which is pretty awesome because everybody else I talked to in that space wanted, some buku money. Arguably the results could be better because he hasn't really found.
I don't think that task is buku money worthy. I think it's just time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So VA makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So get one, and normally I try to do my VAs from South America, so that way there's more like time overlap. But I think for this one, because like there won't require a lot of overlap, I'll probably just go like the Philippines and do a little bit cheaper.
Yep. Makes sense.
So 3K for each one of those deals, right? I mean, as far as revenue goals, for adapted growth, the original goal was to do 250, this year. um, which is still reasonable, right? Uh, it's still something we can do. It's going to be a bit of a struggle because of COVID and all of that stuff, but like I think it's still doable. So to that end, right, I'm trying to get 2,000 to 3,000 people on my email lists, so that way I can reach out to them and everything else like this. And so the Sherpa newsletter is kind of like the main point of that, because like in the Sherpa newsletter I share stuff from John Small Mountain. I also share stuff from like Sales Throwdown, so there's a little bit of crossover there. But yeah, it's harder to write for my brand of adaptive growth than it is for me, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So what essentially comes to mind for me though is you've got a lot of like big goals, they're all on you. And so, and you've said several times stress, and it stressed you out. And so I'm just curious if you are trying, like delegating to me is the number one thing, right? And it sounds like you're already doing some of that because you've got
a little bit
Melissa writing, and you've got VAs trying to do stuff. But like just from a purely clinical standpoint, I don't see how you'll hit 3,000 on 3 different email lists for 3 distinct different brands, and hit your 250K and hit probably there's other stuff you haven't told me about yet that you'd like to get done this year. So it's the same conversation I have a lot of times just from marketing with executives is I'm glad if you got 8 avatars that you want to reach, but this year you need to focus on 2 of them.
Yeah. So, and that's the real focus, right? Is I'm trying to get connected with, it's weird because like I've been thinking of adaptive growth as kind of more of like working with like kind of like established sales teams, but with COVID and everything, I've been seeing some success with people who are looking for closers, right? They've got agencies, they've got leads coming in, they need these closers. And so going through this process of building out everything they need to like do it well. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's more my kind of target market, right? Because it's easier to get in there and do it the right way that I know that it needed to be because like they just want it off of their plate. So it's better alignment than, when there's already a sales team in place and they've already got, practices and things like that might be, hurtful and not as beneficial as they want them to be. But yeah, so more of like the ClickFunnels style entrepreneur, right? Those guys who have got maybe some higher ticket offers, or they want to double their pricing on their courses or things like that, but they know that they need to put a person on the phone to make that happen. Like that's kind of my target audience right now.
Okay.
So to that point, I've been doing a lot more posts on Facebook than I have been on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm still posting daily on LinkedIn, but it's harder to get views on LinkedIn all of a sudden for me. Like I've got a 4,000 person network on LinkedIn, or 4,200. And when I make a post these days, like it's all getting like 150 views, and I'm doing all the best practices. So I don't know if they're messing with their algorithm, or maybe I'm getting flagged, or,
No, they didn't. They changed it over.
Did they really?
Yeah. There's been a decent amount of recent articles pop up recently, from others, and they've really kind of gone looks like they're going the Facebook route. And like where you have to pay for organic reach, and particularly kind of like if you're a big name, if you're Forbes, if you're one of the massive influencers, has over 50,000 people or 100,000 people, they're favoring those people big time now.
Okay.
So it's happened to everyone.
Okay.
I was just bemoaning it 2 days ago with a group of actually really big people on LinkedIn, who have 30, 40, 50, 60,000 followers each. And they're saying the same thing. So
it's crazy to me that in these days there's so many different like social platforms, because like I'm pretty good on Facebook, right? I'm pretty good on LinkedIn. I don't do Twitter at all. Like I've got profiles and accounts there, but like, man, the pace of Twitter is overwhelming to me.
Yeah. Well, once all those stats came out about how many bots were on Twitter, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm out.
Oh, okay. I didn't even see all that.
Yeah, like 2 years ago, it was like something like there could possibly up to be 40% of the profiles and could be bots on Twitter.
So getting back to some goals real quick,
yep.
So the 250K is through adaptive growth, and that's going to be sales stuff, CRM setups, the LinkedIn lead gen offer that we have, and then also like some monthly support stuff.
So walk me through that backwards, like you did, what we did for me yesterday. Like, so you got the 250K, you got to hit X amount a month, you got to do
Yeah.
so many calls, you got to do so many reach
Yeah.
outs.
So 250K, right? Average engagement for like a project is anywhere between like 5,500 and 11,000, just depending upon how big the sales team is, which is a big range, which makes it hard to estimate.
Okay.
So if we go on the lower end, which is kind of the engagement levels that I've been seeing and the people that I've been talking to, right, those are 5K engagements. So to get to 250K, I need 50 of them, right? So
50 for the year.
Yeah, I need to adjust that. That's not. I can't even do that this year, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, not in projects, right? And the goal wasn't to do it in projects anyway, because I've got a couple of other like smaller offers for like recurring, stuff. So that the big people get, right, or the bigger projects get offered these, and then they stay on, and then there's like a monthly trail, because I don't like building a business that doesn't have some exposure to recurring revenue.
Right.
So yeah, I need to sit down and really figure out what that goal needs to adjust to, because
So you want to add more of the recurring stuff up front, like as to load that, and then just take the projects as you want them?
Ideally, yeah, right. What I'd like to do is have 10K a month and just like recurring stuff that doesn't require a lot of effort from me. It can use my support team and Melissa and things like that. So what I'd like to do is have that between 5 and 10K per month. 10K would be like kind of the stretch goal. So that way, that would be, 120 grand right there. And so then I only need to figure out 130 grand in projects, which is not that hard to do, right? At 5K each, right? So that's kind of where that is. I need to figure out a new revenue goal. I still think that the email list is super important to that, because if I'm writing constantly about sales process and improving your hiring and improving your results and being coachable around sales and everything else like this, we both agree that it's just a matter of time. So do
you ever layer your goals, particularly with email, and like, so you've got this 250, I mean, we're calling it 250 right now. I don't know what you're going to adjust it to, but like you get this 250 goal. You've got these specific activities, let's say like 5 activities, you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I'm sure we're going to dig more into this as the show goes on. Like you have this big goal, which is an outcome really that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And to get to that outcome, you need to do these 5 activities. And of the 5 activities, these 3 are the highest priority, and these other 2 are supporting or whatever. But these 3, if it comes down to it to a week and you get overwhelmed, are the ones that have to get done. And so I think you and I are saying email is one of those things that has to get done, because we know it SEO versus ads, right? You have to do the SEO long time. The ads, you can just pop them out. So when you are looking at your like weekly goals, and this is like a question for you, when you're looking at your weekly goals and you're looking to build your email list, do you count that as activities that are priority towards your 250K, just like you would asks? Like, I get this person on the phone.
Yeah, I think so, right? Because it's still a leading indicator based upon an assumption, right? Like I'm not sure that 5K is gonna make it really easy to like sell to that, because I know people that have got lists smaller, and I know people that have much larger lists, and it's one of those things. I want the list to be engaged. So if that might end up looking like 1,000-person email list that generates X amount in projects annually. Right. But the 5K just seemed like a pretty solid round number. In addition to that, right, we do a weekly blog, right? I do value posts, and things like this. So the thing that I'm really excited about is, I think that what I need to do is build out maybe 2 more lead magnets, because we've got the LinkedIn lead magnet, which is our process of generating referral conversations and getting more introductions. I've got the sales calculator that I've shared with you that needs a little bit more tweaking so that way it really makes it into like an improvement tool, and not just like this is where you are, sucks to be you tool, which is kind of where it is right now.
Okay.
And then I think I need to do one more kind of like lead magnet in the sales area, right? And I need to figure out kind of what that is. And so that way this placement VA can then go around and be like, oh, hey, you should take a look at this. Oh, hey, you should take a look at this, right? Because that's going to fuel the thing. So maybe the the 3K email list is based upon, me getting off my ass and finishing one more kind of like lead magnet deal, and then getting a VA to be like, okay, cool. I need you to be finding 5 places a day to talk about these lead magnets, and,
promotion.
do that as me or do that as you.
Yeah.
Just because you can't be everywhere at once. Right.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like on some levels, I feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Weird about admitting here that like I'm using VAs, and I have no idea why. Like,
okay.
Yeah. But you gotta delegate. I mean, you can't do
Yeah.
everything all by yourself. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I just see them as employees. I mean, so
It's weird because like with COVID and all this kind of like pushback towards like nationalism and everything else, I kind of felt this way before, but I feel more so now, right? But here's the deal, right? If I give somebody in the Philippines, $400 to $600 a month to do all of this stuff for me, like that's life-changing money for that person. So, that's how I kind of square it with myself, but sometimes it makes me uncomfortable.
I got you. I could see that for sure. Because I'm Texan, so I'm very proud to be Texan and American. That's how I got there too, though, because the South America group that I work with actually works with people who've been homeless, they've helped get back on their feet. Oh. So it's like a surprise, like a cause-driven group.
Yeah. Dude, it's so weird that you would look for someone that's got a cause behind them.
I know. It's awkward. I know.
It's my thing.
It's what I do. My brand.
Yeah. So that should be the KPI, right? Like okay. The KPIs for me for like next week should be create another value-driven lead magnet and get a VA and figure out like how much they can do in 2 to 3 hours per day, and then just pay them daily to go do that stuff. Because if they're looking for opportunities to post and say, oh, hey, kind of thing we talked about the other day, like hopping into comments and engaging in comments. I mean, that's very time intensive, but it's also not the highest revenue generating activity that I can be doing. So if it's between that and a sales call, I got to do the sales call. So they should be, so somebody else can do that. So I need to figure that out today. So those would be good goals for next week.
Yeah, for sure. Cause I think you're not going to scale to the, things that you're trying to do this year without help.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely agree with that.
So then the question becomes, how are you going to, so the lead magnets is going to get you to people to sign up for the email list. That's kind of the goal of that thought process, right?
Yeah.
And then you also want to work on the 2 offers where you can spend a little bit more time working on the lower entry offer, right?
That's right. Because not everybody has got the budget to hire me and work with me, and cool. But if I can help the owners of these smaller companies hire better and set better expectations and give clarity and everything else like that, then I can help everybody in sales get into closing positions and do it better, because it's not really the best process now, right? There's a big gap between companies that do it well and companies that do it bad. I'm trying to reduce that gap a little bit and just kind of change how people think about selling in and of itself. And we've had that conversation.
Yeah. Well, and the good news about that too is it's an 80-20 proposition really for you, because when you're teaching or training these days, you can spend 80% of the time automated, like sending them content that they can consume without you, even on video watching you. And then you can spend that 20% really helping them with their specific issues, because they're only going to get a small amount of your time. So might as well use that, not for teaching, but for actually helping,
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And the thing that you and I have been talking about very specifically is that money equals access, right? Like the different levels of engagement mean not necessarily like a completely different offer or a completely different build, but a lot of times it's just more access. Right. And I know guys who are, their fast action mover stuff, in their email lists is like, hey, you're going to get this, you're going to get the group, you're going to get all this information, everything else, in the group calls and everything else. And I'll give you one 90-minute consulting call, just you and me. And like those things are selling out so quickly. So as opposed to like offering a fast action discount around like a discounting of just your services, which is terrible. Don't do that. Offer some value to like sweeten that pot. Oh, I want that phone call with that guy,
Right. Yeah, we live in the DIY world, I think now. If we didn't before, we absolutely do now.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Not DIY, I'm sorry. Like help me, you help me. I can, DIYs everywhere. I can get that anywhere. What are you going to do that's different than everybody else? And it's you. You're the difference.
And so like, I'm curious as to your thoughts on this, right? Because of the target market and everything, I'm meeting these guys and they're trying to do everything to like everybody, right? So they're going to generate your leads and they're going to help you on your sales and they're going to, run your ads. And I feel this pressure to try to be all of those things myself. And I know that that's not the best way to go, but it's interesting because like, I know how important niching is and focusing and everything else, but like, so sometimes I see these guys and I'm like, God, how are they doing both of those things? Could I do both of those things?
I think they've got partners.
Huh?
Somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And they don't share it. I think most of them do that. Because I walked that line on my side and went, you know what, I'm not going to do strategy and help you plan and walk you through all the issues and, clean up the team approach to your marketing and then go out and do the marketing and then measure it for you and then come back and do monthly reports for you. That's an agency, right? And an agency has 5, 10, 20 people working for it. All I'm going to do is the first part. And then guess what? I'm going to partner with an agency on the backside so that once we have everything cleared up, now the agency is going to help you. It's somebody I trust I can hand you off to. So I would say that's what probably those people are doing is they have someone who runs ads for them. They have someone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't do it all, right? And there's nothing disingenuous about saying about coming out and saying that, but like, right. I'm talking about these guys who are like solo person agencies and they're trying to do everything, right? Like that's very specifically what I'm talking about. And it's like, there's no way you're doing all that.
That's the target market, right?
What's that?
Because most of the solo person agencies are also trying to help solo type businesses.
Yeah.
In general, they're not helping Bell Helicopter,
Oh yeah.
Or whatever. So there's no way that they could do it for them. So I think that's the only way they could do it.
Yeah, for sure. I just see it and I get a little twinge of jealousy, right? Because it's super easy to want to be all things to everybody, but like it doesn't actually help you. And the thing is I was journaling about this just the other day. Maybe that's becoming more and more and more the thing, right? And maybe I missed the boat on this, but there's so many affiliate offers and there's so many options and everybody's got referral deals and stuff like that. So maybe you don't have to be the best at facilitating the thing. Maybe you just need the best affiliate offer pipeline, right? So that way every conversation you get into has got value, right? Hey, what are you working on? Oh man, marketing stuff. I'm struggling. Man, I know some guys. Would you like an introduction, right? And then it's just about, how purely can I make the conversation, right? Because I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of these and it's great, but a lot of people have problems that I can't help with. So I think I
love that approach.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, but my goal is to not be doing more networking, like not more one-to-one, right? If I'm being honest, because man, it just takes a ton of time.
It does.
Right? Got to start saying no to stuff.
I agree.
So the big goals for John Small Mountain is 52 blog posts this year, one a week.
Okay.
And right now, I think we're...
And 3K email?
Yeah, 3K email. I think we're 1 to 2 weeks behind on that. But so far we've been pretty good. I mean, to be almost in June and to be weekly with, I don't write the smallest blog posts. I mean, I'm no Brian Dean or anything, but
I was about to ask you. So do you know that Brian Dean is, and I'm in Brian Dean's camp on this. He is anti-writing daily, weekly. He thinks you should write monthly and then promote the snot out of it. Like,
I'm very familiar with all the Brian Dean techniques, like the skyscraper technique and the evergreen technique. Like I love all that stuff, but I'm kind of in this paralysis by analysis because I read it, I see it, I understand it, but I don't know how to do it, right? And so then what happens is my C-ness kicks in and I'm like, oh, wait, there's a better way to build this mousetrap, and then I don't ever get anything done. So
Gotcha.
I agree that like I would rather be doing less content but bigger content, but it's weird because I think with the stuff that Brian Dean is talking about very specifically, the SEO, there's really great reasons to go as deep as he does, and there's always great screenshots and everything. I mean, he's a really, really great person to follow.
Yeah.
I think that's harder to do in sales because it's so much more based upon the individual. And I know the same argument could be made for marketing, but I think a lot of people put more value in marketing than they do in sales because of the one-to-one versus one-to-many impact.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I
would love.
I think my approach was,
Go
as
ahead.
we were
Sorry.
talking about, like yesterday or whenever you're watching this, the last episode, that we're going to use this video as a waterfall approach to repurpose this content out.
Yeah.
To me, that's the same way your blogs are, no different. It's just written versus video. And so you write this nice big piece, and sure, the focus is different on an SEO blog like Brian's, but you still write something lengthy and in depth, and you tease out the areas that need to be teased out to make it as lengthy as it needs to be. And then you take the sections and you use that in social media every day, or a quote from your own article, or to me, that's the way that you do that. You treat it just like video. But then the thing that I really like about the approach is it makes the most sense to me is because it's hard to get seen these days.
Yeah.
Well, then spend more time trying to get seen instead of writing.
That's really interesting. So maybe a KPI around like placements or links or
yes,
that stuff.
And that's what you have your VA do for you is placements.
Well, because like if I got on a bigger show, that could be the 3K right there. That's really interesting.
It's just leverage. That's the way I think of it. He's what's smart about it is the way he's leveraged his time around the blogs.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I did the opposite. I did the opposite. I was like, I'm just going to write once a month, and then I still haven't hit my goal for writing once a month. But that's the camp I'm in.
Yeah. I think that there's, and maybe this is just like me reinforcing my own limiting beliefs, but like I think of sales is much more kind of like micro nuggets, right? Because no one wants to read, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't think anybody wants to read a 4,000 word essay on like call framing. I mean,
no.
If somebody does, I'm down to do it.
But you know how you do those though is they become lists, so lists of nuggets around a subject, or they become what they call them, roundups, where you 5 salespeople on, and you each tell me your version of this part, like things like that to me. Because my belief is as long as you're solving a problem that's actually really a problem that people struggle with, they'll read whatever you put out whenever you put it out, and it doesn't matter how long it is per se. I mean, sure, there's limits. Don't get me wrong, but
sure. But when my impression of the skyscraper technique from Brian Dean is that like it's got to be lengthy and super in depth because you're going to be like reaching out to promote this thing and saying, "Hey, mine's better than yours,"
right?
Kind of deal.
Yeah.
Do you think that the roundup stuff is going to be? Because I see them all the time in Harrows now, and I get them in my email box and stuff like that. Is that the new version of like curated content? You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like you just put out like a Harrow request and you like interview 5 people and all of a sudden you've got this huge thing and maybe I should start doing that. That's kind of an interesting. I'm gonna write that down for some experimenting and thought process. Yeah,
I think curating is a really, really wise thing to do these days. And once again, like we were talking yesterday about my people, my community is my email. My email group. It's not necessarily a Facebook group or whatever. And so that's where I will write more lengthy stuff for them, and specifics. And then guess what? You can even curate from your email list. I got a guy in real estate that does that.
Yeah.
He'll ask his email list, "Hey, anybody here expert on so-and-so, reply to me and you could be my next, whatever."
And I really like the idea of like featuring other people, right? Because I think, I don't really think that I'm doing anything all that spectacular, right? So I'm just the guy who can ask good questions and break down the big goal and figure out the KPIs, right? And I don't even know that that's inherently like a standalone skill that makes me, any better than anybody else. I just have more experience doing it, I would say. So let's talk about goals in the other bigger purpose here, right? Because, man, I put in some work last night to knock out some of this stuff because I do not want to pay money. So
okay.
One of the levers we've talked about and used ourselves is betting on yourself, right? So betting on yourself to do certain activities that you completely have ownership of. And then for the sake of this experiment, we've kind of got an accelerator with an accountability partner, and that person who's going to hold you accountable. So if I create a week's worth of goals that I have to hit, and Jake says, hey, these aren't really that impactful towards your overriding goal, then I get less of a payout. So the goal is to take bigger bets on yourself and grow your assets so that way you can, and then it's easy, and then you're getting these payouts. So if it's a level 1 goal, that's a 10% payout, 2 goal 20%, 3 goal is 30%. And we're talking specifically that yesterday, or the last one of these, that I want to be doing a weekly $2,000 bet on myself, right? Because $2,000 at a 30% payout is like $900. Like that's a trip, right? And if I'm setting really good goals and working towards these things, like why would that not be possible? Like there's no reason that it can't be, right? You just have to go out and make it happen. And that's where the goal alignment comes into play, because doing a goal just for the sake of like crossing it off the list, there's validity in that, right? There's momentum, there's all of these things, but the goals and the KPIs have got to be building you towards the place that you want to go, right? And I don't think that people have got really clear grasps on that, right? Or it gets fuzzy and it gets away from you. So my goals for this week were I needed to write 2 Sherpa newsletters. Those have both been done. Yeah.
Nice.
Right. I needed to write, let me see here, 4 pieces of content for like clients and for the course. I've done 3. So I'll only need to do 1 more of those. Let's see. Talked about building my kind of like about John landing page, right? Because I got my ClickFunnels account open and started, so we'll be playing around with that a little bit. Okay. And that wasn't like a weekly goal, but like I put that on here for today. So like today's a fairly large day, and then 27 more reach outs, right? Which will be today. So
okay,
yeah, I got that. I got live lunch break at noon. I've got a consulting call at 2. I've got an onboarding call for the LinkedIn lead gen at 9:30. Yeah. Got a new client yesterday, and so we got to get her or them onboarded. That's mostly Melissa, but I got to like kickstart the whole thing. Okay. So today's going to be swamped.
Yeah, I think one of the major things for the next 6 months for both of us, 3 to 6 months, whatever it would be, is finding new ways to delegate that we haven't done it before.
Oh, yeah, I like that idea.
Because I think that should be maybe our theme for the next 90 days.
Uncomfortable.
It is, and it's completely necessary for us to hit the type of goals we want to hit.
For sure, absolutely.
So I think that's like maybe our 90-day like theme. Like, sure, we have goals and we're trying to hit these things, but like maybe for the next 90 days, we challenge each other as like that's our intangible or something out there that we're like, how's delegating?
I like that, right? Like, when we're building out our weeks and setting our goals and our KPIs and stuff like that, like, hey, is there anything in here that could be handled by, somebody else? If so, maybe put one of the big hairy goals into that kind of bucket and let someone else do it and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I like that a lot.
You and I both love to work, and you and I both love the work we do. So we're going to be the probably worst case scenario for delegating.
Oh yeah, it's going to be because Melissa just yesterday was frustrated with me because I normally kind of bring her more or less completed content, right, for blog posts and emails and everything else like this, and she goes, "Why don't you just let me write it?" And I'm like, "Well, if you're at that critical mass where you can write and cover this stuff in a way that like looks and sounds like me, then I'm totally down for that. But if we're not quite there and you bring me something, then I have to read it and I need to flesh it out more, I'm not super happy with it, and then give it back to you, then that's going to be more time. And like, that's a process worth doing. But right now with, trying to sprint and do all of these things, that becomes difficult, right? I think that outsourcing your writing when you've been writing for a while is difficult to do. So I don't outsource my writing. I just outsource like the proofreading and editing.
Well, one of the things, since you have someone who likes to and wants to and is good at writing, that might be a really great place to start for you, is to go, okay, I'm going to be the one in charge of the monthly big pieces. And then why don't you start writing the 3 out of the 4? Like the weeklies, and here's my framework. This is what I need to happen. Go. And then you let go. You just take your hands off and see how it works.
Yeah, man, that makes me wildly uncomfortable.
But the cool thing you have is you have somebody you know and trust.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So that should be a little bit of comfort.
But so here's the deal, right? I
Right.
love Melissa to death, right?
Uh-huh.
There's some unique things about working with your partner that
Oh yeah.
I thought I knew, and I thought that I'd be able to get like a hold of, and it wouldn't bother me or wouldn't show up. And
Yeah.
by and large, it doesn't really show up. I mean, she's amazing,
Yeah.
and our personalities work pretty well, and we know each other pretty well, obviously. But it's also harder to coach that
Oh yeah.
person, right? Because it's, I mean, we do a pretty good job of containing work stuff to work hours, but there's been a couple of days where I had to kind of say, hey, no, we're not doing it that way. And then I get a bit of the cold shoulder at dinner and stuff because, we get excited about this stuff. We get invested in it and stuff like this. And when someone is like, hey, you're not doing that right, or I don't want to do it that way, it sucks. So I'm
Right.
not even mad
Yeah.
about it, but I think I coach her differently than I coach the other people on my team because of that relationship.
That's
And
why. Yeah.
but I don't know if that's causational if if it's the other thing. Like, I don't know if it's the relationship that makes me coach her different, or if I coach her different because of
Because
the relationship.
well, think of it like a data scientist, because that's how you're built, right? Is it more important to you to have your blogs done the way that you want them done, or is it more important to fill your email list?
No, at this point, the priority is the email list.
Can she
So
fill the email list? That's the only question then. Will her writing help fill the email list?
yeah, but with training, right? And so maybe in as we adjust, most of my KPIs and to-do lists are all about the things that I can like directly impactful do, and maybe that needs to shift to, okay, awesome, this week is a
That's what I'm saying.
success if I get somebody on my team above
Yes.
the level of awareness around a certain thing, so that way I don't have to do it anymore.
That's a $900 payout.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what I mean. That's actually where I was pointing the finger back at myself too, right? Is like, that's where I think the next 90 days around delegation, that's what it needs to look like, is stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it can be like, hey, I want a VA to do reach outs for me. That's not very uncomfortable. It might be really helpful, and it goes towards that delegation goal. But I think it's going to help us to grow as business owners, probably in the areas we need it most this year, is around that.
The thing that I really need to get off of my plate is the thing that's been heaviest this week is the 4 consulting pieces. Those are kind of one and dones. So I have more to write out for the entirety of the done by you course or whatever.
Okay.
But the reach outs have been kind of this like heavy thing on me, right? Because like 60 is a lot,
Yeah.
and it's just a lot in conjunction with everything else I have going on, right? If that was the only goal, then it'd be no sweat. But it competes with everything else, because then after I reach out to these people, I send them a message, they want to engage with me, and then I'm trying to batch my engagement on messengers, that way I can be productive and not just always at everybody's whim. There's a lot to do that. And I know a guy, he's been in my DMs for a while now, and he says that he can do organic reach outs and lead generation and call scheduling on Facebook. So I might just hire that guy to do that for me, because that's a pretty low level activity as far as.
I think that's a great idea, because it's comfortable enough.
Yeah.
And you can actually frame the stuff that, well, so like, for example, there's a guy, Chase Gibson, on LinkedIn, that a personal trainer coach, and he teaches like LinkedIn DMing stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sharing some of his scripts with me, and he literally has a VA that has a page full of reach out response, reach out response, reach out response, reach out response, and he 100% uses that, and he only gets involved once they are have one like keyword trigger, like there's one keyword he always jumps in on because he wants those conversations, or when there's a call. That's the only time he touches them, and he is killing it. He's multi 6-figure.
Really?
That's how he does it. Mm-hmm. He's like, we think we have to. We're the secret sauce. He's like, the only time we're the secret sauce is when it's in person, really. Like when you access, right? When they want you, that's when you have to be there and show up. The rest of the time, he's like, I'm convinced there's ways to take your best stuff and package it up and delegate it out. So that's something that's challenged me a lot over the last month, is like, how can I do that and test that? Because we had this conversation yesterday. I don't want to be doing 60 reach outs in a week. I'm not interested in that. I completely agree it needs to happen, but I'd rather pay somebody with scripts that someone else gave me that are successful.
Yeah. Do you have his scripts?
Maybe. And let me see if I can share them, because they're part of what he teaches. But I'll share what's working for me.
Cool. You know what we should do, right? To improve this thing is we should kind of line out all of our annual goals into like a Google Doc, and that way we can share that Google Doc, and that way we can kind of hold each other accountable towards like, okay, cool, like big, because like I want to write a book this year, right? I want to build a
Me too.
course.
Yeah.
I want to build out, my funnels to kind of make my conversations easier, right? So like I've got lots of really big goals, right? And so I know lots of people talk about, reduction of goals is important and stuff like that, but I think it's much more around your success rate around hitting your goals and around how you structure your goals, because I don't build my goals around things that I don't have any control over. I mean, that's the lagging indicator. So goal is to focus on the things that I do control, right? And because like to me that creates the distance that makes anything approachable, right? Like the idea of like going out and selling like 250K and like, consulting packages and everything. Oh my God. Like, the minute I start thinking about that big goal, I get some anxiety around it. But then when I break it into, oh, okay, this is what that looks like monthly. Here's how many projects I do. Here's how many decision makers I need to be talking to like hit these things. The same stuff we're talking about on the calculator. Like, that's my sweet spot. Like that's where I get the most comfort. So yeah, I need to get the outreach and the growing of my organic reach off of my plate and onto somebody else's plate, because it's hard to do. So that's gonna be something. So
maybe we should do that starting Monday. Maybe we'll get the spreadsheet pulled together, and we can start the episode, our first kind of kickoff check-in on Monday with here's the goal for this week, here's the big spreadsheet we built, and ready to go.
Awesome. What do you want to do next week? What's your bet?
Good question. Let's see. I had it written down.
In that perfectly organized room, you can't find the thing you're looking for. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so pristine. Wait, watch it. Ready? It's gonna. Oh, they didn't do anything. I thought it might wave for my green screen. I don't know yet. Let me get back to you, because I normally do those over the weekend for the next week.
Okay.
So we'll have it ready.
So should we be using the Friday show as like a way to kind of like
wrap up,
dream and vision board our goals, and then on Monday we'll have them like lined out, and we'll say, okay, cool, like this many reach outs, this much of this much of this, and then okay. So let me ask you this question, right? Because you probably know this. How much do you want to bet on yourself next week?
Probably $100.
$100. Okay. And what kind of payout do you want? You want the 10, the 20, or the 30%?
I'm gonna go mid, so 20.
20. Okay. I'll be thinking about that from my end as well, about like what looks like a 20% goal versus a 30% goal versus a 10% goal once we talk about what those actual KPIs and the things that you have control over are. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Do you know what your goal is next week, or the amount?
I was going to brainstorm them actually like right here, right?
Okay.
If we could.
Okay.
The daily value posts have been good, right? Because then that also gives me content to repurpose into, smaller Facebook groups, so the plan is to keep doing that, right? What else do I want to do next week?
Well, we'll do what we always tell each other: is you back into it, right? What's the next priority to get you to your big goal that you need to start knocking on the door?
The next big thing, honestly, I think for me is working on my funnel, right? I'm working with a guy, and they're helping me out and stuff like that. And but I just signed up for my ClickFunnels account yesterday or the day before or whatever. So I'd like to put some mileage in on that before the trial period ends. I mean, it's not like I'm planning on leaving, but trials are great for a reason. So I'd like to get really comfortable with that platform, because it's pretty new. And
what's from a ClickFunnels standpoint, how's that going to help you grow, just so people know?
So that's going to be where the course is going to be, and that's going to be where, because it's just so easy to like throw up landing pages and stuff like this around different offers. And I like the idea of putting out different offers. Like earlier this week I put out an offer that I was looking for 10 people to take a deep dive into like communication. We were going to go through DISC, journaling, and it's going to be kind of like a 3-week project with like Facebook support and everything else like that. I got some support for it, but I didn't fill it. So I got to figure out if I actually want to do it or not, because I might just wait. And that's kind of the interesting thing. I'm curious about what your thoughts are on like pre-filling stuff like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've tried a couple of different ways. One way is I'm going to do this no matter how many people show up. So I'm going to promote it for 4 weeks or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that tends to be what works the best for me. When it comes to the, hey, who would be interested in X? And then if it fills up, I tend to lose interest on that. But if I don't get a lot of feedback, where it's like 1 or 2 people are like, yeah, I might be interested in that. And then I go get in the DM and ask them, which part they're interested in. They're like, well, I'm not really, I don't know how interested I really am. It just sounded interesting as a theory, something like that. So I don't know how.
And honestly, I think that that'll be easier when I can do that via email to like a,
yes,
somewhat sized thing, because right now I'm just putting them out as stories on Facebook, which gets seen more than just like regular posts, but it also makes it harder to, write good copy around the offer and generate some emotion and stuff like that. So,
I would think that to make them work from Facebook stories, you would need to treat it like a subject line. You'd need to write something intriguing and send them to a landing page and then break down the offer.
Probably.
Which is where, whatchamacallit would be, ClickFunnels would be really useful for you.
Exactly. And that's going to be the thing. So I'm working with a guy, a coach, to build out kind of like a funnelized offer and everything else like this. And, because like I don't love ClickFunnels, right? I think we've talked about this. So like I've been looking at ClickFunnels versus Kartra versus, all these other things. God, there's so many tools, man. It's crazy. But, ClickFunnels is such like an established foothold, and my coach is already using it, and like you can transfer, funnels from one person to the other. So for that side of it, it's pretty awesome. One of the guys that I follow had like a big Kartra blow up, actually, like it sent out an email that wasn't supposed to like his whole list and not like a segmented list.
Oh, no.
So I was kind of like, I'll go over here to ClickFunnels then, right? Because I know that there's some things about it that are wonky, but I'm not planning on. I don't think I'm going to host my course there, because I got a thing from AppSumo for, I think it's called Heights, which is a different, platform for courses and stuff like that. Because like I don't really know that the platform matters. It's just about getting traffic to the platform via email.
Well, the platform is about ease of use for the customer, really. That's what I think. Because I've used Kajabi, and Kajabi is amazing, but it's expensive. But it
is expensive, right? It's like $150 a month.
Yeah.
Is it worth $150 a month?
If you're making money, absolutely. It's one of the best looking courses, like places to host courses that you can get. I'm doing one on Teachable right now, and it's far less, and it's pretty nice.
I've heard good things about them. And then I think there's another one like Thinkific.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's pretty nice too. It's on the Teachable level. It's pretty nice. Yeah.
So like Kajabi is like the premium ultra level, and then like click. So does that mean that like ClickFunnels is like the grimy street cred version?
I don't even consider it a hosting for teaching. I consider it a landing page marketing funnel platform.
Oh man, I know people that have got some pretty big kind of membership platforms on that thing. But apparently there's like a super easy way to get past the paywall on ClickFunnels.
Oh wow.
I've read some comments about it. I don't know how to actually do it, but I just want like a super easy, clean way to do landing pages and sales pages, right? So that way I can do more offers, right? Okay, cool. Like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And then those can all be tied and linked to my kind of like overriding about page. And the thing about the about page is I was thinking about hiring Ted to write it and doing it in like this like very like mystical thing, right? So like
Ted could do that.
This is my like landing page, and you land there and it starts with something like, oh, so you want to talk to the mountain.
Yeah.
And then I think that would be just like cheesy and fun, and Ted would be a good guy to write that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I might reach out to him about that, because
I'm using Udemy. That's what I'm using right now, because I've got a little course I'm building. And because Teachable charges you to basically help build your course and then host it. Whereas Udemy is just like a marketplace where they have the pre-built in stuff, and I drop my content in, and it's built out, and then it's a place people can buy that I can send people to hosted.
But don't they also do a thing to where like they can discount your course to like whatever dollar amount they want, and like you don't really get a say in it?
I don't know. I didn't. I guess I should do some more research on that, but I didn't see anything like that.
Well, because like Udemy always has those like courses. I mean, at least in my feeds, get this course marked down to this amount and stuff like that. And I don't know how much of that is like the course creator trying to do like a value stack versus how much of that is this. But I've read some comments from people who were saying that like on certain platforms that once you put your course on there, you lose control of the pricing.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
And
the one I'm putting on there is very much just an intro. It won't be something I'm really trying to make money for necessarily. There'll be a price point to it, but it's a very small one anyway. So
So
I'll
this Heights platform. What'd you say?
So maybe that's where like Teachable and those other things came from. They got tired of Udemy marking down their courses.
Maybe,
because Udemy has been around forever.
Yeah, I got this one from AppSumo called Heights that looks pretty legit. And the reason why I got it was because it was also supposed to make it really easy to do like asset delivery. Mm-hmm. Turns out I don't really need that with ClickFunnels anymore, but
Yep.
So, I mean, but it's so hard not to buy all the stuff from AppSumo.
I know.
It's so hard. Like,
so good.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I'm curious, right? Have you played at all with the Facebook content scheduler?
Yeah.
I feel like they took everything that makes a great scheduler great and just ripped it out of it and then said, hey, we won't penalize you for using this one.
Yeah, that's what they do. They give you the most basic and then they start charging you. Yeah, I don't like it. It feels really clunky to me. But.
It does feel very clunky to me, right? Because like the thing that I very specifically want to do, and maybe this is the wrong approach, but so much of my stuff is weekly now, right? Live lunch break, this is going to be daily and weekly and everything else like this. And so what I kind of want to do is I kind of want to be able to like, not like think about it like retweeting on Twitter, right? Because Twitter's moving so fast, like it's not uncommon to see a retweet for the same offer or episode like multiple times in a day because it's just so busy. I should be able to do the same thing on Facebook, right? And maybe it's not built for that, and maybe I'm thinking about that the wrong way, but most of my posts at this point, I mean, probably 25 to 30% of my business posts are like promoting something that happens weekly. So,
well, I think the way that they've done that is they've made it more of a take something off the shelf approach versus like a Buffer or a Hootsuite where you just schedule everything out at once. So like, they got watch parties for videos now, and they've got the standard like scheduler in feed where like I want to post this at 7:00 tonight, things like that. So it's like if you have a specific thing in mind, they'll let you take something off the shelf and use their product to do that. But they don't. Like you said, the content scheduler is still so like rudimentary. It's almost worth not using and using Buffer or something, because nobody's seeing our organic stuff anyway. When you put it in the feed, it's like a 1.3% something stupid, right? So it's like, I'd rather just use Buffer and get it on my wall so that when people see me, my stuff's there versus relying on it with the right time of day, at the right day, at the right thing, and get a 3% organic reach. Woo, for sure. So that's why I think the lives. That's one of the reasons we're doing lives, right? Because it pre-packages the content in the best way for the platform because they support it. Yep. So then we don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah, that's fair, because the things that I'm reading is that like Facebook is squashing reach on like other schedulers, so that way you're incentivized to use one or use theirs.
They've been doing that forever. Yeah,
which is like, I don't know. I don't really understand the purpose of that, but then again, it's not my circus. So
they're all the same. All those social media platforms won't let you. They don't want you to use outside tools. They want you to use their tools. It's because they're trying to create a universe that you don't leave, which is so ridiculous. Because they know everyone works in multiple universes. So why do you still on this antiquated idea that we have everything you need? Don't leave our universe. Yeah. It's like, okay, you can have a bigger chunk of my time, but don't kill me for using YouTube to host videos because they do a better job of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I think that's going to be really interesting, because I think it's just a matter of time before someone builds a tool that allows you to like be on all of these platforms and, use like AI to kind of break stuff up and make that really easy. I'm sure there's, some kind of Russian hacker working on this in a basement somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get back to your wrap here then.
So my bet next week is going to be $100.
So do you have what's your goal on ClickFunnels? Is it a certain amount of hours? Is it a certain amount of tasks? What's the
Yeah,
accomplish?
good question. I need to work through all the onboarding stuff,
Okay.
which, there's courses and stuff like that inside of ClickFunnels about how to use ClickFunnels. Dude, that guy has done arguably one of the best jobs ever of creating like a cult-like
Yep.
fanatical fan base.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yep.
So I'm going to work through the I'm going to do this instead. Okay. I'm going to put a certain amount of time spent on education stuff because I've got the ClickFunnels stuff, which is new. I'm also working with this coach and everything else. So I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, look, I'm going to spend 3 hours in improvement next week.
Okay.
Right. Which is like learning for me.
Okay.
And I'll be tracking that time separate. What else do I need to do this week? I need to do a Sherpa newsletter. I need to write 2 pieces of content for clients. Daily value post. And then sales wise, what am I going to do?
$1 million. $1 million.
Yeah. Well, being the sales guy, I feel like I need some sort of sales facing KPI. So we'll do, I'm going to do 15 reach outs next week.
Okay.
Because trying to do 60, obviously it's harder to really focus on quality because it's just like kind of like spraying and praying.
Or it's the only thing you do.
Yeah. So I think that 15 and making them, top tier and being a little bit more targeted would be a better fit, especially if I pull the trigger with this guy who does like the organic Facebook outreach on his own, right? So if I compare my efforts with his efforts, then that should be pretty good. So I need to research the VA stuff. So the placement VA, and then the organic reach VA. And the goal would be to have both of those figured out and like running, right? Like first version runs, right? And then we can test and adjust from there.
Yep.
I feel like that's a lot.
It is a lot. I'm going to keep pushing you on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and slow you down. That's probably going to be my goal for most of the time here. Quality over quantity.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bet $100. Do you think that's a 10, 20 or 30 bet?
Put your list again. So the 15 reach outs, you had the Sherpa newsletter, you had the what else?
Daily value posts.
Daily value posts, the 3 hours of EDU.
3 hours of EDU. 2 pieces of course consulting content. And then talk to a placement VA and then talk to this organic reach VA.
That's all pretty 10%, I think, don't you? I mean, there's nothing really super challenging in there for you, for your C. Unless you think otherwise.
No, I'm okay with that being a 10%, right? Because I think that I think it's super easy for me to get into that stuff and leave it without having like actionable next steps, right? Which is kind of the thing that we're trying to avoid. So I think it looks like a 20% week if I pull the trigger on the placement VA and the organic VA, as long as we have a session in that same week around the process and the messaging and all of that stuff. So
I agree. Researching, it's a 10, pulling the triggers a 20.
Yeah. So if by next Friday, whenever we're catching up and doing this again, if I have hired the VAs and we have started in some way, shape, or form as far as like onboarding or whatever that is, then that'll make it a 20% week. But like as it is, if I haven't pulled the trigger on that, it's still 10% week. Does that sound fair?
Yep.
Awesome, man. Cool. And you're going to think about your goals for next week over the weekend. We'll kind of knock those out early on Monday.
Yep.
And go from there. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good. That's it. I think that's where we're at.
All right, Bill. Let's go get it.
All right, Bill. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. See ya.
All right, bye.